Hey guys, I'm Jay Randall. Welcome back to my channel where I discuss wisdom for the modern man. Today guys, got another video to react to. The title of the video, Why They'll Cheat on You Even If You're Perfect. The title of the video got my attention, so I was like, you know what? Let's take a look at it. So without further ado, let's get right into the video.
All right, what's up, my brothers? In this video, I'm going to be sharing a little bit of insight provided to me from a legal professional in the divorce industry who's been in that space for 30 years. And he's talking about cheating. One of my favorite sources of good intel happens to come from insiders in certain industries when it comes to the dynamics between men and women and divorce and marriage and relationships and all this sort of stuff. So let me just read you what I got over here, and I'll provide a little bit of context and some feedback before we wrap up. I'm not going to mention his name, but he mentions in this email that he's represented thousands of people at his law firm. He says, in family law practice over the last 30 years, represented over 1,000 people, women definitely cheat way more than men, in my and my trusted colleagues' opinions. He goes, in today's world, if your ex doesn't cheat on you, you're actually the exception. Statistics on cheating are highly underreported. That's an important point to sort of hover over for a second, because a lot of the times when you see published studies or surveys or Evo Psych bits on these sorts of things, it usually requires that these participants fill out some kind of a survey or a study. And even though they often say that they're anonymous and they don't collect your data and blah, 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 people are always wary about honestly answering these things. So what he's talking about with the underreported data is specifically that. It's like when they say to women, do you have a backup plan? And only 50% of women report having a backup plan in a committed relationship, when in fact, that is of course underreported, because it would make women look bad if they reported that they all had backup plans. If you get my drift, if I can put it that way. I don't dare say that surveys of how often women cheat are an accurate reflection of reality. Women are hypergamous by nature. I believe, and we've seen, that they cheat way more than men. I'm in the cheating business in a legal environment of well over 2 million people, so I know better than most. And I'm good with that. Family law lawyers frequently discuss and share incidents of cheating behaviors with their law practices with one another. Women cheat a lot, which should be no surprise in today's degenerate slut culture. Funny enough, they actually think they're cheating with a monogamous person, but they're not. They're unwittingly sharing these men. I'll talk about that in a little bit. I could write a whole book on the comedy of cheating because it's absurdly hilarious, foolish, narcissistic, destructive, humiliating, shameful, risky, and reckless. He goes, it's pretty much like a Jackass movie. In my law practice, women cheat just as often as men, perhaps even more. I see so many cheating wives that I really began to wonder who was sexing all of them up, because it sure as hell wasn't me. Where were these guys who were sleeping with all these wives? Because they sure weren't coming through my law office either. The question remained a mystery to me until I moved in with a guy friend of mine for several months when I was in between homes. I soon learned that my friend was sleeping with a lot of these wives. He and his best friend were. He and his best friend trolled a dating site and sexed up many different wives and single women. And that's what the quote-unquote single women told them, is what he's saying. It got so bad that before either one of them went on a date with a new woman in their city, they literally called each other to make sure they didn't F the same woman, which they referred to as double dipping. These two guys were in their mid-40s, not particularly attractive or remarkable. They refused to spend any money on these women, and we figured out that between the two of them, they had slept with about 70 different women in their city in 1 year alone that I was there. They never had sex with any of these women together, and neither one had sex with the same woman. I saw many strange women come to my friend's house while I lived with him, and sometimes I heard them. I personally knew the other guy as well. One woman would open her garage door in the middle of the afternoon at the matrimonial home. He'd park inside, close the garage door, service her, and leave. Like a drive-through, more like a drive in and out. Well, wow. I know that some of you aren't going to like this one, but what are you going to do about it? That's the reality.
Yeah, and here's the thing, man. That's the cold, hard reality of the game. Like, a lot of guys don't want to accept that because, you know, it doesn't sound nice, but men need to be aware of this. You know, these studies that go out, you know, they don't show the full picture. You know, if you're out here in the dating game, you know the real deal. When I was on the scene just a year and a half ago, actually probably about a year ago, I was seeing this. I've been experiencing this for years, but I was in the game doing cold approach. Bro, the amount of women in relationships and the amount of married women that I dealt with is insane. It should not be the case. It's completely unacceptable. One of my buddies right now, I'll tell you a quick story. One of my buddies right now is actually dealing with a married woman, actively sleeping with a married woman as we speak. And literally, she works at our job. She's like a manager in another department. And her husband is another manager or supervisor in another department of the company. We work at a very big company. So he's at the same job and she's cheating with my homeboy. He literally showed me the text messages where she's saying, well, no, he asks her, hey, so I know you got a husband. Like, is that going to be an issue? She's like, no, we just got to be safe. LOL. Bro, he literally showed me the text messages. It's brutal out here, guys. And I just want you guys to be aware. I'm not trying to, give y'all anxiety or make y'all question stuff. But at the same time, I want you guys to move with your eyes wide open. This is a very promiscuous culture, and women are not the same as they used to be. So just because you marry a chick does not mean that she's not moving reckless out here. And, I'll get into another video about marriage where I delve deeper into that. But yeah, man, marriage does not mean loyalty. And that's another reason why I don't believe in signing a contract, because what am I even signing up for? This doesn't guarantee me anything. It definitely doesn't guarantee loyalty. But yeah, let's get back into the video, guys.
Of the sexual marketplace. Human beings often push for monogamy. We love talking about being monogamous all the time. I've talked about often, the difference between polygynous type of relationships and monogamous type of ones. And the grim reality of this whole issue that is being dealt with is that humans are in fact very, very promiscuous. There's a chapter in my book, The Unplugged Alpha, where I talked about the promiscuous nature of human beings from all these different perspectives. And the truth of the matter is, guys, is if you're going to choose monogamy, make sure it's chosen, not enforced upon you. And just understand that women do cheat. There's no amount of buffers for marriage, religious ceremonies, or any of these things that are going to protect you from a woman that is going to step out and sleep with other guys. There's some things you can do. Sure, I'll talk about that in a little bit. But so let me share an interesting personal story with you. So many moons ago on a dating app, I ran into some married women, and it was my policy at that time, all's fair in love and war. I've changed my mind since, of course, because it just doesn't sit right with you dealing with a guy's wife. And I ran into this lady. We get together, we have a drink, and she proceeds to tell me at the drink that she's in fact married. The guy that she was married to, because I live in Toronto, I'm not going to mention the place that he worked at, but he was extremely high profile. Like if I told you what he did for a living, any one of you guys watching this would be able to look him up and pass on this information. So I'm just going to leave it at that. He was a very prolific individual, and she had no shame about it whatsoever. She would give me intimate details. She would tell me how bored she was of the guy, how he didn't interest her anymore, how she was disappointed in the relationship. And she would literally go to the ends of the earth to do anything to entice, or I could almost use the words entrap, to sort of reel you in to make sure that you're going to be a continuous quote unquote customer, if I can put it that way, to the point where she wanted to start having me come out to family properties that they shared together, matrimonial properties. One of them was a cottage, and it's like, look, I know how people are up at lake houses and how everybody knows everybody else's business and how sound travels across the water. And it's like, lady, that's it. Look, I'm done at this point. Like as soon as they get to that where it's like, you have the realization that I got to stop doing this because these chicks have absolutely no shame and they're literally that bad. Like the story that he tells about his friend going over to this married woman's house, she would kind of leave the garage door open. He would close it and go through the garage door, do his thing, and then slip out of the house. She had this whole system to get him into the house and out of the house without neighbors see. Like, it doesn't surprise me at all. This is a reality of the world that we live in today. There's no amount of, well, just make sure you don't marry a narcissist, or just make sure that you don't marry a woman that's had a promiscuous past. Just make sure that you don't da-da-da-da-da-da, sort of thing. And there's certain things that you can do which will potentially reduce the instances of any sort of problems, any kind of nefarious behavior, if I can put it that way, her stepping out on you. One of the main ones seems to still be a woman's purity. And it's one of the things that I've talked about on this channel many times that bug a lot of women, and I don't really care. But the truth of the matter is, statistically speaking, women that have a low to no notch count are far better choices for long-term committed marriage type of relationships.
That is 100% facts. And yeah, he's right. Women don't like hearing that because they want to be accepted no matter how they come. And they don't want men to start to filter based on that, because a lot of them would not make the cut. But I want to touch on something he just said when he spoke about him getting with a woman who was married to a very wealthy individual, high profile guy. I want you guys to pay attention to that, because money does not equal loyalty. A lot of times you'll hear on these podcasts when they're debating with women and they're talking about what's it gonna take to get this girl? How much does he have to make to get you? And they talk about, well, the reason women aren't the way they're supposed to be is because men aren't providers. And they need the man to make this exorbitant amount of money and provide a lifestyle and give them this amazing life financially. And somehow that's going to equate to them being loyal, being traditional, taking care of him, doing right, being a good, loyal woman. It's not the case, bro. It's not the case. It has nothing. Loyalty and good treatment from a woman has nothing to do with how much money you make. It has everything to do with character. There are men literally in impoverished situations out in the Philippines, out in freaking all these other third world countries, and his wife is loyal to him despite the fact that they're both broke. That he's broke, he can't provide her this lavish lifestyle. There are men, I know guys who literally have, like, they're immigrants, whether they be Mexicans, like I know some of them, they come and they cut the lawn at our business. We have a restaurant, and they come and cut the lawn, and they have their wives there, and she's loyal to him, literally working with him, helping him out with the business, and she's loyal. Can he provide her with the most lavish lifestyle and buy her anything and buy her handbags and take her here and there? No, but he's a good provider. He's a loyal man. He treats her well, and she's loyal to him. It has everything to do with character. This whole new idea, like, you aren't entitled to a loyal woman. You're not entitled to a woman who's going to be traditional unless you make a certain amount of money. It's BS. It's modern woman propaganda for men to simp out on them. You can't buy loyalty. You can't buy a woman being traditional. You can't buy a woman being good to you. It's either built into her character or it's not. I just wanted to touch on that, because that is something that a lot of guys think, well, if I have enough money, then she'll be loyal. If I have enough money, then I can prevent her cheating or I can prevent divorce. It's either in her character or it's not. So let me keep going with the video.
Than women that have been running around. And my theory on this, and they can't study this to get the exact answer, but my theory on this is that if you've been through 50, 75 guys before you've gotten married, which isn't that uncommon. In fact, I would argue it's probably far more common than it is uncommon. In my entire life, I've never met a virgin, not once. So you get the idea of how women behave in today's modern world.
Yeah, that's true. The body counts are extremely high. Now, that's crazy, because he's older than me, way older than me, probably in his like 50s or 60s, and he hasn't met a virgin. That's wild. And he started dating or dealing with chicks back when things weren't as bad as they are now, and he still hasn't come across a virgin. I've come across 2 virgins, but the scenario in which I came across them, they were both previously lesbian. And so their entire teens and early 20s, they were only dealing with chicks. And then, of course, lesbian relationships are very toxic and abusive. So at some point, both of them got fed up with dealing with women, and they said, you know what? I need to give men a try. And somehow the stars aligned where me and them met right as they left the dynamic with, dealing with women. That's the only way I was able to meet virgins. I have never met a woman who is heterosexual and has been heterosexual from day one up until her early to mid 20s, and she's a virgin. I have never met that in my life. That is insane. I know plenty of male virgins, guys I work with, and they're virgins. I have never met a heterosexual woman who is heterosexual from day one to her early to mid 20s who's a virgin. That should tell you a lot about the society we live in. It's cooked.
They're just promiscuous. It is what it is. That's just how they behave. Toxic feminism has told women that you can behave just like men do. In fact, they often encourage it. You can be promiscuous without any consequences whatsoever. But the truth of the matter is, there are consequences. There's a cost associated to everything, if I can put it that way. So when I hear stories like this, I'm not surprised. And I also understand why these things happen and why women behave this way. And it's a factor of selection is one of the issues, talked about earlier. Selecting women that are pure are better than women that were promiscuous, of course, because you go through 50, 75 guys, things aren't going well, she gets bored, she hates the guy, you can be number 76 or 51 or whatever.
I met a girl at 18. This was back when I was 22 at the time, and I met a chick who was 18 years old. And I asked her, honestly, I wasn't intentionally trying to ask her body count. It just came up in conversation, and she told me she'd been with at least 50 guys. At least 50. So, and she didn't even know for sure, but she knew it was around that number. So it's more than that. So I'm going to add on at least another 10 and say 60. Bro, 18 years old. And I've met plenty of women who fall into the 35 body count number range, 40s, 50s. I've met women who've been beyond 70 bodies. And they're in their 20s. Man, it's bad. It's bad. And the more you're on the scene, the more you date women. I've dated women. And here's the thing. When I say those kind of numbers, people will think, well, you're just dealing with those type of women. Where are you finding these women? College campus, church. See, that's a whole nother story. You'll find them at church. You'll find them at the bars and clubs, of course, but you can kind of expect that. You find them at Walmart. You find them everywhere. It's the norm. People think that we're going out to like a little haven or a neighborhood where these like hoes congregate. Literally pick a random chick in Walmart, walk up to her. Her body counts at least 10, 15. And she's probably like 20, 22. Bro, it's bad out here. It's bad out here.
And it's very, very easy for her to just pick up her things and just move on and take half of his stuff and alienate him from the kids and take custody. And this married gal that I saw a few times back in the day, she had kids, she didn't work, she was a stay-at-home mom, she was bored. And she just filled her day with, I guess, guys or whatever it is that she could line up for herself to entertain herself. She really had no interest in leaving the guy. She was just looking to enjoy herself and have some fun on the side. And she didn't really make a great or concerted effort, if I can put it this way, to sort of protect him from any kind of embarrassment. She was very open about it and didn't seem to care either. So it's like all of these traditional conservatives that have this like massive wet dream, and they tell guys, just go get married, just wife her up. What can possibly go wrong? And you offer them stories like this, and you say to some of these traditional conservative guys, well, hey, what's your solution to problems like this? And they don't have a solution. Their only solution is just don't get divorced, or find a better woman, or find a woman that has a primary relationship with God or Jesus or whatever it happens to be. And there's no way around this, right, guys?
The problem with that way of thinking is that women switch up. They have the option to switch up at any time because the court system is always on their side. So they can utilize it at any time. They can reserve the right to be traditional woman when it suits them, and then completely switch up and be strong, empowered feminist when it suits them. So you never know what you're going to get at any given moment. One day she's traditional Lisa and, she would never, and I have such a loyal, God-fearing wife. And the next day she gets bored and she is utilizing every feminist tool in her power to destroy you in the court system. And you're like, how could this have happened? I did everything right. I found a God-fearing woman. I found her in the church. We go to church every day. We read our Bibles. I stay loyal. I didn't cheat. I help out with the house. I've done everything right. And yet here I am facing the same issues that the secular men are going through. And I did nothing that they did. I did everything. The pastor, Matt Walsh, the other sucker at freaking the Daily Wire, all of them. I followed the rules. And yet here I am in divorce court. I'm not going to pick on Matt Walsh too much because you know what? I actually watched a couple of his videos and he seems to be one of the few people at the Daily Wire who seems to actually understand the BS that are a lot of modern women are doing because he reacts to videos where modern women are talking about I have a perfect husband, he's so loyal, he's great with the kids, but I'm bored and I want to leave my marriage because I want to go find myself. And he does reaction videos to that, absolutely cooking the chicks. So I'll give him his credit. I don't think it's Matt Walsh. I think he still has issues, but he's the better of the bunch. I think it's the other guy. I can't remember his name. Pearl did an interview with him. Michael Knowles, that guy. Holy, he is the simpery of the simps, bro. Holy. King of the simps, man. This guy literally advocates for men to get married. In this climate, he advocates for men to get married without a prenup. He's fully against prenups, and he's against mandatory paternity tests. Like, I have never met a man who is like against everything that would actually benefit men and put them in a good position. And he calls himself a men's advocate. Well, maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't, but the way he presents himself is as if he's advocating for men. Bro, dude is an enemy to men. Holy crap. The worst advice I've seen in a very long time. But yeah, let's get back to the video.
Like, none of these guys that this dude's talking about from this family law firm that got married to this woman probably had any idea whatsoever that they were stepping out. And even if they did know that they were stepping out and that contributed to the actual divorce, you don't have any consequences or recourse for a woman stepping out in a committed marriage like you did back in the day. At one point in time, from what I understand from talking to a lot of these family lawyers, there's certain states where if you caught your wife with another man in the matrimonial home, you could legit pull out a firearm and take care of things yourself, and there was no consequences to you for behaving that way. Those laws have all since changed.
We need to bring those back. We need to bring those back. Literally, I know I'm pausing this a lot, guys, but, you know, on this particular video, I have a lot to say. Literally, and I spoke about this story before. I had a homeboy of mine who I work with, and his wife literally brought a guy home. The guy that she was telling him, oh, don't worry about him. It's one of the guys that she works with. You know, don't worry about him. He needed to worry about him. She brought him home to the house, and they had sex in their bedroom. And the only reason he found out is because he installed cameras in the house. And she was unaware that he installed cameras in the house. And that's how he found out. And they're now divorced. He was married. He got married young, too. He was in his, he's like 23. He got married. He did nothing wrong. Loyal, out there, hardworking. He sees on the camera footage stuff that no man wants to see. Yeah, we need to bring back those laws because there needs to be some punishment for bad behavior. This is crazy.
They've modernized things. This is all the result of modernity and progressiveness and toxic feminism and liberalism that we live in today. There's no consequences whatsoever anymore for women stepping out. A lot of people out there are like, well, men do it too, and why don't you address the men? And it's like, it's really not the same thing. If I can talk very quickly about this situation recently with the Astronomer CEO that just happened this summer, who got with the HR lady down the hallway. This guy was worth millions, and he was the one that was dragged across the coals in the court of public opinion. I would argue that what she did to her husband was far worse than what this guy's wife is going to do to him in the divorce grinder, because he's the one that's going to be paying for everything, essentially. Not only did he lose his job, and as far as I could tell at the time of recording this, and I haven't looked it up recently this week, but at the time of me coming across the information about a week or so ago, she was still working at the company. He was terminated, resigned, packaged off, or whatever it happened to be. She still had her job. Her husband, she's still married to him, you know, as far as I can tell, probably hasn't done anything or isn't going to do anything, because that's just the way a lot of the guys are many of the times. She's going to play the victim in the whole thing. And this guy, Andy, who was the CEO, or the former CEO of Astronomer, lost his job. His wife's going to divorce him, take half his shit. It's the standard. She goes for custody of the kids, usually alienates him from the kids. And then he's got to pick up his life after all of that and try to put it all together. I'm not saying the morality of it is good, bad, or indifferent. What I'm saying is people are people, and men and women are going to do what they're going to do. But I would argue that when a woman does it, she actually has far more of a connection and investment with the guy, or they try to anyway. They obviously try to make like a romantic connection. It's very, very rare that women that are married just can do it indiscriminately without any kind of a connection or wanting more or anything like that, or wanting things on a deeper level.
Yeah, and even the data shows it that when it comes to affairs, the woman is statistically has a much higher likelihood of leaving their partner for the affair partner. That's just the statistics, and that is, I mean, we don't need the data to show that because we already know how this is. Even if you're dealing with a woman from a casual situation, from a casual standpoint, they're gonna catch feelings and they're gonna be more invested as time goes on, the more you deal with them. So yeah, of course she has more investment in the guy, but the guy who's just smashing her, bro, he doesn't care, bro. He doesn't care if she dies tomorrow. He's not gonna lose a wink of sleep about it. At most, he'll be a little irritated because he has to go out and find a new chick to sleep with. But other than that, he does not care. So yeah, it's totally different.
Whereas like the vast majority of men really can. And that bothers a lot of people, but like, it is what it is. If you want people to lie to you and sell you comforting lies, that ain't me. I'm going to tell you what I know, you know, what I've seen. Anyway, I'm going to leave it on that note. There's really no way to buffer this properly. There's no way to really hedge or create some kind of like insurance policy against women stepping out in a long-term relationship. The most important thing, guys, is stay away from promiscuous women, because past behavior is a very strong indicator of her future behavior. The other thing too that I came across recently in the past year is a study on female regret with short-term sexual partners. And what I learned from that is that women will always express regret when they make decisions that bring them into short-term sexual encounters, cheating, stepping out on their husband. But the regret itself doesn't change the future behavior. And again, they've studied this, so don't get mad at me. Don't shoot the messenger. This is just how things are. Women express the regret, but it doesn't change behavior. In fact, in the regret study, when it came to short-term sexual partners, all that really happened was women expressed the regret, but they kept doing what they were doing. And in many cases, the frequency increased. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think. What's your experience been? Pin in the top comment.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, it's a dark world out there. And, you know, it sucks, but that's part of accepting the red pill. The red pill does not taste good, bro. It is not candy. It is a very bitter pill to swallow, but the truth will set you free. The truth will keep you free. The truth will keep you out of divorce court, and it will keep you from falling into the fairy tale that women are sugar and spice and everything nice, and just marry a good Christian woman and everything is going to be okay. Right? That's the fantasy. And some people, they get to live that fantasy, and I'm so glad that that's the case. My parents are in that situation. But for a lot of us men out here, with the kind of women we have left to deal with, we have to move differently. We have to accept all the hard truths that are out there so we can make the most informed decision. And just like he left off with that piece of advice, do not date a promiscuous woman. I don't care if she said she's changed her action, she's a different person, she's changed, she's evolved, she's gone to therapy, she's got femininity coach training, or I don't care. If she said she's found God, I'll even go that far. If she's found God, 100%, that's fantastic for her. I hope to see her in heaven, but that's not your girl. If she has any track record of that previous behavior, you can't afford to take a risk. That's not a risk you can afford to take. The personality that is created through that lifestyle in a woman, and the traits that are created and instilled in a lifestyle of promiscuity in women, it sticks with them. It sticks with them, and they can always just take a U-turn and go right back to that lifestyle. So I'll end it with that one, guys. If you got value from the video, please go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. If you have any videos you'd like me to react to, go ahead and leave it in the comment section, or email me at the email in the description. And until next time, guys, take it easy.